They say football is a game of rules, a game of logic, a game of 90 minutes. But in the busy streets of Enugu, Nigeria, there was a young man who didn't care about rules. His name was Augustine Azuka Okocha. But the world would come to know him by a different name. A name he took from his older brother, James, who first carried the title on the local pitches. Even his immediate brother, Emmanuel, was known as Jay-Jay. But as the youngest boy began to dance across the dirt of Enugu with a ball at his feet, the name found its true home. It shifted from a family label to a personal identity, Jay-Jay. It became a rhythm, a beat, and eventually a legend. Most children dream of scoring goals, but Jay-Jay, he dreamed of the dance. In his neighborhood, there was no fancy grass pitches. There was no expensive boots. There was only the hard ground, hot sun, and a ball that was often just a bundle of rags tied together. But look closely at how he moved. He didn't just kick the ball, he spoke to it. He learned to control it in the smallest, tightest spaces. While other boys played with power, Jay-Jay played with imagination. His parents saw the fire in him early. They watched as he spent every waking hour with the ball. He didn't know then that the streets of Enugu was preparing him for the biggest stages on earth. He was learning the secret that would one day baffle the best defenders in Europe. If you can master the ball in a tight space, you can master it anywhere. He was just a boy with a dream. But this dream was about to show the world that when you play with joy, you don't just win, you leave a mark that never fades. This is the story of the magician who made the impossible look easy. In this episode of African Archive, we look at the uncrowned king of football. We'll explore why true greatness isn't found in a trophy cabinet, but in the magic, the joy, and the lasting legacy left on the beautiful game. Subscribe to the African Archive today for more untold stories of notable African people, places, and purposes. The journey from the street of Enugu to the world stage did not happen overnight. Before the bright lights of Europe, Jay-Jay had to sharpen his craft at home. In Nigeria, he joined the Enugu Rangers. This was not just a club, it was an institution. It was where he learned that football was not only about individual talent, but about teamwork and discipline. Playing in the Nigerian League toughened him. It was a place where physical strength was valued, and young players had to fight for every inch of space on the pitch. Jay-Jay stood out because he did the unexpected. While others cleared the ball under pressure, he would dribble his way out. He was honing the skills that would later make him a household name. However, his path to the global stage was paved by a stroke of pure chance. In 1990, while on a trip to Germany to visit a friend, Jay-Jay stopped by the training ground of a local club, Borussia Newcastle. He had no intention of signing a deal. He was simply there to watch. But when he asked to join the practice, the coach agreed. As the training session unfolded, the coach watched in silence. He saw a young man who moved with a style they had never seen before. It was fast, it was creative, and it was entirely unpredictable. By the end of that single practice, the club knew they could not let him go. They offered him a contract on the spot. Leaving home for a new country was not easy. The winters were cold, the language was new, and the style of play was very different. In Germany, football was often about rigid structure. Many players would have struggled to fit in, but Jay-Jay was different. He didn't change his style to match the European game. Instead, he brought the flair of the Nigerian streets with him. He used his quick feet to dance past defenders who were used to playing against brute force. He was quickly climbing the ladder, moving to Eintracht Frankfurt. It was here, in the top league of German football, that the rest of the world truly took notice. When he scored one of the most famous goals in history, dribbling through an entire defense and sitting the legendary goalkeeper Oliver Kahn on the grass, he wasn't just scoring a goal, he was announcing his arrival. And he had gone from the local pitches of Enugu to the heart of Europe. The boy who learned to master the ball in the heart of Nigeria was now teaching the world what it meant to play with freedom. While Europe was falling in love with his magic, Jay-Jay's heart remained firmly with his home country. In the mid-1990s, the Nigerian national team, the Super Eagles, was rising to global prominence. Jay-Jay was not just a player in his squad, he was a heartbeat of the team. The year 1996 stands as a testament to his spirit. The stage was the Atlanta Olympics. Nigeria had arrived in the United States as underdogs, facing financial struggles and limited preparation compared to the giants of the world. The world did not expect much from them. But Jay-Jay and his teammates had something that money could not buy: a collective hunger to prove themselves. The tournament was a battlefield of giants. Nigeria faced legendary teams like Brazil and Argentina, nations that had dominated football for decades. In the gold medal match against Argentina, the pressure was immense. Nigeria fell behind early, 1-0. Then after equalizing, they trailed the game, 2-1. For most teams, facing a deficit against such a super house would be the end. But Jay-Jay and his teammates refused to accept the script written for them. The comeback began with the relentless energy of a team that refused to blink. In the 74th minute, Daniel Omokachi chipped the ball over the goalkeeper to level the scores at 2-2. The tension was suffocating. Then, in the final minute of play, with the clock ticking towards heartbreak, Emmanuel Amunike connected with a free kick, driving the ball into the net to make it 3-2. That final whistle sent shockwaves across the globe. For the first time in history, an African nation had reached the summit and claimed the Olympic gold medal. They had not just won a trophy, they had shattered the long-standing belief that the footballing crown belonged only to South America and Europe. Winning that gold medal was more than just a sport achievement. It was a declaration. Jay-Jay had led his team to become the first African nation to win Olympic football gold. He had taken a group of players and turned them into icons. For the people of Nigeria, and indeed all of Africa, Jay-Jay became a symbol of what is possible. He showed that you could come from modest beginnings, face great odds, and still stand on the highest podium in the world. He was no longer just a player from Enugu or a star in Germany. He was a national treasure. He had transformed the identity of Super Eagles, proving that the African style of football, full of flair, intelligent and soul, was a force to be reckoned with on the greatest stage of all. As the years passed, Jay-Jay's reputation grew until he became more than a player. He became a teacher. His journey took him through some of the biggest clubs in the world, including a high-profile move to Paris Saint-Germain. It was there, in the glamorous capital of France, that he took a new role, mentor. Amongst his teammates at Paris was a young, gifted Brazilian boy named Ronaldinho. While the world watched the stars, Jay-Jay watched the future. He saw the same spark in the young Brazilian that he had once felt in himself back in Enugu. Jay-Jay took him under his wing, sharing the secret of the dance that had made him famous. Years later, when Ronaldinho became the best player in the world, he will often credit Jay-Jay for helping him find his own joy on the pitch. This was the true power of his career. Jay-Jay did not just perform for the cameras. He passed the flame to the next generation. By the time he moved to Bolton Wanderers in England, he was a seasoned master. Many expected his best years to be behind him, but he did the opposite. He captained the team and played with the same unpredictable genius that had defined his youth. He turned matches into his own personal exhibition, showing the Englishman a side of football he had rarely seen before. But what truly made Jay-Jay unique wasn't his speed, or his strength, or even his goals. It was his fearlessness. In a professional world that often demands players stick to a rigid plan, Jay-Jay played with complete freedom. He never tried to be like anyone else. He accepted the risk of his style, the missed tricks, the defensive pressure, because he knew that the reward was something far greater: inspiration. Years later, Ronaldinho, who would go on to conquer the world, would tell reporters, "The player I most admire was Jay-Jay. He was the most skillful player I ever played with. It wasn't just his teammates who felt this way. When you play with that level of genius, you gain a different kind of authority." Even the legendary goalkeeper, Oliver Kahn, one of the greatest to ever stand between the poles, admitted that Jay-Jay's name was still, even years later, a nightmare to him. The most unpredictable opponent he ever faced. Sam Allardyce, his manager during his later years in England, saw it every weekend from the sidelines. He said, Jay-Jay was a magician. He could make 30,000 people stand up and clap just for the way he touched the ball. These weren't trophy givers. These were peers, rivals, and masters of the game. They weren't looking at medals or titles. They were looking at the sheer, undeniable presence of a man who played as if the world were his own private stage. He didn't need the awards. He had the reverence of the very people who played alongside him. He taught the world that football is a conversation between the player, the ball, and the fans. And because he spoke so beautifully, the world could not help but listen. By the time he retired, he had left behind a legacy that wasn't measured in trophies alone, but in the millions of children across Africa who saw his smile and his steps overs and dared to believe that they too could change the game. History books often look for the name at the top of the trophy list. They look for the player with the most awards, the most medals, and the most titles. If you look for Jay-Jay Okocha there, you might be surprised. He never held the trophy for African Footballer of the Year. He never lifted a World Cup. But here is the truth that the record books don't tell you. Greatness is not always about what you collect. It is about what you leave behind. There are players who win every award only to be forgotten a decade later. And then there is Jay-Jay. He didn't need the official titles to prove he was the master. He proved it every time he stepped onto the pitch. He proved it when defenders who spent their entire careers training to stop players found themselves paralyzed by his next move. He proved it when a young Ronaldinho watched him in Paris and saw the blueprint for his own future. The awards go to the most efficient, but the legend goes to the most inspiring. Jay-Jay Okocha teaches us that you don't need a crown to be a king. You don't need a trophy to have won. He reminds us that if you stay true to your path, if you play with pure joy, and if you leave the game better than you found it, you have achieved something that no medal can ever represent. He is the uncrowned king of football, not because he missed out on the prizes, but because he was too busy painting a masterpiece that no award could ever fully capture. When the final whistle blows on a career, the trophies gather dust. But the inspiration, that lives forever. And that, in the end, is the greatest victory of all.